I have stood at the gates of Thornhall Palace for 11 months now. 11 months of tourists, rain, camera flashes, and children pressing their faces against the iron bars. And in all that time, I never once saw an order get cancelled. Not delayed, not moved, cancelled. That morning it happened twice before 9 o'clock. My name is Callum Reed. I am 23 years old, and I am the youngest man in the Ravensmere household regiment. I say that not with pride. I say it because it is the reason nobody thought I was worth lowering their voice around. That is how I heard everything. It was the 8th of October, cold in a way that gets into your boots. The kind of morning where the sky over the Capitol looks like an old gray coat someone forgot to wash. I remember the smell of wet stone, the pigeons on the east wall, shifting, restless. A man across the road selling roasted chestnuts, blowing on his hands, arguing with himself about the price. Tourists were already gathering. There always are. 2 Japanese students with a tripod, a retired couple from the northern counties, the wife telling the husband to stand up straight for the photo, the husband not listening. A little girl in a red coat, maybe 6, holding her mother's hand and staring up at me like I was a statue that might blink. I did not blink, that is the whole job. But I was listening. At 8:10, Sergeant Halloway came out of the guardhouse. Halloway is 51. He has been at Thornhall since before I was born. He walks like a man who has never once been in a hurry, and I have seen him stand in a hailstorm for 2 hours without moving a single muscle in his face. That morning his face was moving. Small things, a tightness around the mouth, 2 blinks too many. He carried a folded paper in his left hand and he kept turning it over, like the words on it might rearrange themselves if he checked again. "Read," he said. "Sir." "The Queen Consort's carriage, 9:15, forget it." I did not answer, you do not answer. But something in my chest went very still. Understand what that meant. Queen Marguerite of Ravensmere had a fixed pattern. Every second Thursday she left Thornhall at 9:15 for the children's infirmary on Vessel Street. She had done it for 19 years, through 2 illnesses, through a national mourning, through a winter so hard the horses had to be reshod twice. The gates opened at 9:15 on a second Thursday. It was the closest thing this country had to a law of physics. And someone had just switched it off. Halloway walked the line of us, 6 men. He stopped at each one and said the same short sentence, and I watched the same small thing happen to each face, nothing visible, but something underneath, like a stone dropped into deep water. He came back to me last. "Who cancelled it, sir?" I asked quietly, barely a breath. I should not have asked. He should have torn strips off me. Instead he looked at the gate, then at the palace, then at the paper in his hand. "The prince," he said. "Prince Aldrich of Ravensmere is 39, heir to the throne, son of the king by his first marriage, the marriage the country still speaks about in a certain careful tone at dinner tables. Queen Marguerite is his stepmother. Nobody says that word out loud. Officially she is the queen consort. Officially the family is one thing, whole and unbroken, and the newspapers who suggest otherwise are vulgar. But you learn things standing at a gate. You learn who is driven out of the north entrance and who uses the east. You learn who is announced and who simply arrives. You learn that in 19 years, Prince Aldrich had never once cancelled anything of hers. Until a Thursday in October, when he cancelled the only thing she never missed. By 8:30 the crowd had doubled. Word travels strangely around a palace. Nobody announces anything. But the carriage did not come out and the grooms did not appear, and somewhere in the gathering people, a phone came out, and then another, and the mood changed the way weather changes, not all at once, but you feel the pressure drop before the rain. The little girl in the red coat asked her mother where the horses were. Her mother did not know. Neither did I, and I was standing 8 feet from the gate. At 20 to 9, a car came down the inner drive. Not a state car, a plain gray one, the sort the private secretaries use. It stopped short of the gate. A woman got out, gray suit, folder pressed to her chest, walking fast in shoes that were not built for fast. She spoke to Holloway. I could not hear it, but I watched her hands. She kept opening the folder and closing it, opening it, closing it, like a woman rehearsing a sentence she did not want to say. Holloway listened, then he said something short. She said something back, longer, and her voice rose at the end of it, and one word got out and reached me across the cold air. Unprecedented. Here is the thing about standing still for hours. Your body stops, your mind does not, your mind goes hunting. And mine went back 3 weeks. 3 weeks earlier, on an ordinary Tuesday, Princess Sabine had come through this gate on foot. Aldrich's wife, 41, married into the family 16 years ago and never quite forgiven for it by certain quarters. She had walked out through the pedestrian arch with no protection officer visible, no announcement, carrying nothing, and she had stood on the pavement for a moment, looking at the infirmary's gray outline 3 streets away. Just standing, looking. Then she turned around and went back inside. I thought nothing of it. Tourists think a guard sees everything. We don't. We see everything and understand almost none of it, and we go home and sleep and forget. But standing there on the 8th of October, with the carriage not coming and the crowd swelling, and a secretary's shoes clicking on wet stone, I remembered the exact way Princess Sabine had looked at that hospital. Like someone looking at a door that had been closed to her. At 5 to 9, the chestnut seller crossed the road. He is not supposed to. There is a line and he knows where it is. But he came to the barrier with his hands in his apron and his eyes wide, and he said to nobody, to all of us, "There's a car at the infirmary, been there since 7. Holloway turned his head, slowly. "Whose car?" The man shrugged the way people do when they know exactly and are afraid to say it. "Princess," he said. "The younger one, went in the side, no cameras, no fuss, nurse's entrance." Something cold went down my spine, and it was not the weather. Because Princess Sabine had no engagement that day, I had seen the schedule board in the guardhouse. Her name was not on it. She was not supposed to be anywhere. And she had gone at 7 in the morning in the dark, through a nurse's door, with no press, no photographer, no one to see her do it. Holloway looked at me then. Not at the crowd, not at the road. At me, the youngest man on the line, the one nobody lowers their voice around. And he said something I have never repeated until now. "Reed," he said, "not everything that looks like a snub is a snub." At 9:15 exactly, the gates opened. The crowd surged. Phones went up. The little girl in the red coat was lifted onto her father's shoulders. And what came out was not a carriage. It was a single car, windows down, moving slowly the way you move when you want to be seen. Queen Marguerite sat in the back. Beside her, and I will remember this until I am an old man, sat Princess Sabine. They were holding hands. Not a photograph pose, not the arranged, elbow-hooked, chin-lifted thing the newspapers get. Marguerite's hand was on top of Sabine's on the seat between them, and Sabine was looking straight ahead with the particular stillness of a person who has been crying and has decided to stop. The car passed 4 feet from where I stood. Marguerite turned her head and looked directly at Sergeant Holloway, 51 years old, 29 of them at this gate. And she nodded at him. He did not move, but I was beside him and I heard him breathe out, once, long. We learned the rest that evening, the way everyone did. There had been an emergency at the infirmary in the night. 3 children. A fire in a residential wing 2 streets over, and the burns unit overwhelmed, and no announcement made because announcements bring crowds and crowds bring cameras. Princess Sabine had been there since 7. Nobody sent her. Nobody told her to. She had simply gone through a nurse's door and stayed. And at 6:30 that morning, Prince Aldrich had canceled his stepmother's ceremonial visit. Not to shame her, not to push her aside. He canceled the carriage, the horses, the route, the flag on the bonnet, the whole beautiful, useless spectacle of it, because a spectacle would have brought 200 people and 40 cameras to a hospital where 3 children were fighting for their lives. And then he telephoned Marguerite himself at dawn and asked her to go anyway, quietly, in an ordinary car, and to take Sabine home when it was over. The papers ran it as a feud. Of course they did. Prince Sidlins Queen, wife elevated, palace in crisis. I read those headlines standing in the guardhouse with a cup of tea going cold in my hand, and I thought about a woman looking at a hospital 3 streets away, and a man canceling the only thing that would have made the morning about himself. The little girl in the red coat waved at me as the car went past. I did not wave back. I have never broken position, not once, not for anything. But I want to tell you something, and then I will stop. People come to that gate to see the ceremony, the scarlet, the bearskin, the perfect straight line of men who do not move. They photograph the part that was designed to be photographed. And every so often, the real thing goes past 4 feet away, in an ordinary car, with the windows down and 2 hands folded together on the seat, and 11,000 people miss it entirely, because it did not look like anything at all. That is the whole job in the end. Standing still in the cold, watching the one moment nobody thinks to look at.